Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello, this is Deborah Johnson with you today with Women at Halftime podcast, not just for women, but also for men, many who are at mid-career, at the halftime of life, or even later, that I love to talk to about subjects that will help you at this point in your life, and really to ask and answer what's next. And today's subject, what is a leader, is such a good subject because I talk a lot about self-leadership. And it's one of the reasons why I write books. And I just came out with my sixth, of course. If you're watching the video, you will see me hold this up and it says, Stop Circling. It's a great little book. It's not real long. It has short chapters, has a full application guide in the back. And it's available print books, but also the ebook and Audible. So make sure you check that out. So what is a leader? So we're going to really kind of dive into this. And I hope that you are able to really answer some of the questions maybe that you've been, there's a lot out about it, but for you to really pursue the topic. So as I talk about what is a leader, there are plenty of books, articles, and speakers just expounding the principles of leadership. So it really seems like the answer, it should be readily available. However, leadership is an attribute that's in dire need for many organizations, businesses, relationships, and lives. An article from Inc.com, a recent article, listed 5 qualities of someone with bad leadership skills. And I'll put the link in the article that comes with this podcast. These include narcissistic tendencies, a lack of recognition for good work, treating people like numbers, and too much control and lack of communication. We've probably all experienced that at one point. And here I'd like to approach some mindsets necessary for good leadership. And I feel this is so important because good leadership isn't in an organization. It starts with vibrant and healthy self-leadership. Again, that's why I write the books I write. Leadership is not merely asserting a strong personality or a will or ultimatum, though a result of leadership, it might include any of those attributes from time to time. But a leader is able to guide and influence toward a common goal or an objective. They provide direction, inspiration, and motivation. Some qualities that apply to both leading others as well as self-leadership, I'm going to cover here. So number 1, a good leader is an initiator. I was evaluating my style of leadership, and I realized that I'm an initiator. And even though I've never put myself above any of the other members of groups, I'm still usually the one to set in motion our meetings. And this has happened in multiple groups. Rather than feel sorry for myself that others weren't constantly calling me to get together, approaching me, I realized that, well, I was probably thought as the initiator of the groups or even the relationships. I had identified the great value of getting together for specific relationships and for meetings. And it was really a turning point of my thought process of continuing to contact others, not feeling sorry for myself, an initiator. Number 2, a good leader follows through. Let's catch up soon, or let's get together soon. Well, that's a phrase most of us hear very, very often. I have a friend that says she'd love to get together soon. And I've repeatedly, time and time again, I've told her I'd fly out and meet her halfway. But there's been no follow through on her end. I could either take this personally or realize that I got the credit for initiating, but now I can freely spend my time other ways. Well, that might sound funny to you, but this has happened so many times that when someone does follow through, I'm actually pleasantly surprised and honored. Now, this follow through applies to most every area, not just relationships. Following through on our word and our promises, both to ourselves and to others, it's a quality of good leadership and good self-leadership. Follow through. Number 3, a good leader takes responsibility. Part of what defines what is a leader is taking the responsibility for failure with the ability to apologize, the big A word, apologize. How often have we seen those? Oh, especially in government. I hate to say that, but it's true. They blame others. They blame the last administration. This happens every time. And this escape route may work the first time, but most people will wise up fast to this game of avoidance. The best outcome of taking responsibility is the ability to learn from mistakes. If we can't analyze what went wrong, well, we can't examine how to make it right the next time. To illustrate, on February 1st, 2003, the space shuttle Columbia disintegrated as it re-entered the atmosphere over Texas and Louisiana, killing all 7 astronauts on board. It was horrific to watch. An investigation board determined that a large piece of foam fell from the shuttle's external tank and breached the spacecraft wing, a problem that had been known for years, and it was even noted by one of the workers. But the safety precautions, they were ignored as there was the reliance on past successes. The remnants of the tragedy, they serve as a reminder of the value of lives lost and to never ignore a small detail mentioned by a worker again. Actually, they're still on display and they're used as a learning tool. Very important to recognize mistakes and admit them. 4, a good leader makes time to think. I said makes time to think. Yeah, well, I hope you catch that. To think and learn. Our world is moving faster and faster, especially with the explosion of technological advances. And I love technology, but shortcuts using AI in analyzation, creation, and even communication, they're becoming common in most every area. But good leaders, or might I say, great leaders, take time to think and read. Warren Buffett, investor, philanthropist, and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He has a reputation for being a prodigious, how can I say that, reader, fluid reader, as well as a thinker. This is his quote: "I insist on a lot of time being spent almost every day to just sit and think." That is very common. That is very uncommon in American business. I read and think. So I do more reading and thinking and make less impulse decisions than most people in business. I do it because I like this kind of life. That's Warren Buffett's words. Well, the easy path for most anyone is just to follow the crowd. I've written about this before. The groupthink, staying one step in front of the amount of work there is to do. Not everyone has the freedom and time to read and think as much as Buffett, but most everyone can carve out time to do more than they are currently doing. It's a great example. 5. We're still not done. No, a good leader develops and delegates. It's hard for some of us to delegate. Developing teams takes time to understand and know what their team should and are capable of doing. Mary T. Barra is the first female CEO for an automaker to earn the Automotive Hall of Fame. Well, at 18 years old, Mary, she got a job on the assembly line at General Motors, inspecting hoods and fenders. And over the next few decades, she rose in the ranks to finally get to her current position as CEO. And many other leaders, well, they've done the same thing, starting at the very bottom. And thus they can understand what needs to happen at every step, at every level. And in doing so, they're able to understand some of what is involved in a task. And with that understanding comes the ability to hire the right people and to trust them enough to fulfill their responsibilities. Now, however, not all leaders need to work their way up in the chain of command in a particular company to understand what needs to be done. But they just need to know what skills are needed to make the right hires. We've all heard that before. It's a lot easier to hire than to fire. Be careful. Number 6. A good leader has a strategy for the future. If a leader takes time to really think, part of that thinking should be toward future trends. Well, no one can fully predict economics, trends, or style, but one can make good guesses. A good leader not only knows where a team is, but where a team can go and how to get there. Athletics is a great illustration of this. I'm married to a former pro athlete. We talk all the time about that process, and often a trainer will push us past to where we think we can go physically. Our doubts subside with amazement when we arrive. As well as dreaming big comes that format of a plan. They have to create that picture. A coach needs to do this for a team. Well, there are many trend reports also that come out yearly for business. One of my favorites is from Virtual Peter at futureloop.com. Again, I have the link in the article. He sends global thought-provoking developments in technology, medicine, and AI. And I love that. I'm kind of nerdy in that way. But there are many examples in other fields like finance and medicine. The Stansberry research team puts out constant updates with trends, and it's one of the sources that my husband Greg follows as a former registered investment advisor, RIA. And their information helps investors calculate risk and future moves. So a good leader keeps up with the reading on all of this information. And 7, a good leader communicates effectively. Now, Disney-inspired tales of leaders that picture a king or an autocratic leader sitting alone with a scepter in hand. And I love those movies. I've worked for the Disney organization for many years. And the evil rulers would yell and scream commands that would intimidate and berate subjects. But the good leaders, they would bestow kindness on their subjects. However, we couldn't really tell how much they communicated in these fictional sagas. A good communicator and a leader will make the time even if very brief, to communicate clearly and effectively to team members. Part of this process includes listening. It's harder for us to do, isn't it? For many personalities, they may not realize they're not communicating. So I suggest taking a step back to listen even more attentively to your team. What are they feeling? Communication styles are different with how they are received. And there are many resources that help with communication style. If you're looking for something, a couple of my favorites are the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And that's not just for couples. It's not for, it really applies in so many other areas. It's a great book, classic book. It's been around for a long time. Or Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And he listened in. A big part of that book is how to listen. So let's apply this. We can ask ourselves the following questions as we apply these 7 principles to our own self-leadership. Do we initiate? Do we follow through? Do we take responsibility? Or do I? How much time do we spend thinking and learning? And what else can we develop and delegate? Do we have a vision for the future? And in what ways can we communicate more effectively? Well, those questions, they should help us up our game when we ask ourselves, what is a leader? Well, I really hope this has helped you today. This is, again, it's a great subject, a great topic. It's one that's talked about a lot. But again, your self-leadership, it all starts with that self-leadership. You can't really effectively lead others if you can't really effectively lead yourself. I strongly believe that. So I hope you spend some time maybe thinking, maybe reading, maybe pursuing some of the sources that I put in the article. It's great. I hope you pick up the book, Stop Circling. It's also great that you also connect with me on my newsletter. You will get the article every single week. A new one comes out. goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. You can always connect with me. Also, Deborah Johnson speaker. I take a certain number of live events a year to speak at. And DJ Works Music. I have a lot of music out, available for licensing, available for downloads. And I still do a certain number of music events, not a lot anymore, but I do a certain number of them. I love doing what I do. And I plan on still working. You know, if God gives me more years, for many years. I love what I do. So thank you again for joining me today on What is a Leader? And I will look forward to seeing you again next time. So bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.